Welcome to Session Update. I'm Janelle Trobeck. The Senate is scheduled to take up the controversial Health and Human Services funding bill, which would replace Minnesota's current public health care programs with direct payments to recipients so they can purchase private health care insurance. The bill appropriates about $10.7 billion for the coming 2 years, which falls below Governor Dayton's $12 billion proposal. Also before the Senate is the omnibus state government bill, which includes provisions to reduce the state's workforce 15% by 2015. It also freezes public worker pay and moves employees to a high-deductible health insurance plan. But first, we want to show you a small portion of Governor Dayton's meeting yesterday with construction leaders. During the meeting, Dayton emphasized his proposal for a $1 billion capital improvements plan and urged support for the construction of a People's Stadium, which could house the Minnesota Vikings. Here's a portion of that meeting from yesterday.
Why would we not be wanting to make these investments and putting people who want to work back to work, rather than paying unemployment for those who would much rather be working and earning their income? And I'm also struck by what is a critical situation you described: the loss of companies, the loss of jobs, and what I hear some of the refrain now is, well, we'll do a bonding bill, but just for emergency projects, such as the flooding. Prevention, which is certainly an emergency, no doubt about that, but putting people to work in the building trades is an emergency project in itself. I mean, time is of the essence. That's why when I submitted the bonding bill, I promised to do it by the end of January so that it could be passed, I would hope, by now, so it could be, these projects would be going forward in the beginning of this construction season. Now, evidently the idea is to wait on it till the very end, if not, oh, that's still 2 months away. That's 2 more months where people are sitting on the bench rather than working, which to me is just incomprehensible. But you make those in long-term investments, and you get the benefits in the increased economic return. And that's what we're looking for in Minnesota. Look at that map, all over the state of Minnesota. I spoke earlier to the operating engineers, Glenn, and you had people from all over the state, probably all people from all over the state who are in this room right now. These are projects that are all over the state, and I left half of it open intentionally for legislators and others all over the state to bring in their input, because I put mine together in the first month and I didn't have a complete perspective. So I wanted to give legislators a chance to participate and benefit their constituents directly. And I'm astonished, as I say, that the people haven't leapt at the opportunity to do so. And a lot of these projects are repairs. Yeah. Repairs of some of the Minskew buildings that some of the, you look at what University of Minnesota Morris has done with the retrofitting of the heating and cooling system there to use green energy. You talked about that before, as well as renovating all the buildings to be more energy efficient. You got the repair to the Coon Rapids Dam that would be crucial, DNR says, in preventing the invasion of Asian carp, which would just decimate our tourism industry as well as our fishing recreation throughout the state of Minnesota. So, flood prevention projects. I mean, there are a lot of things here that are ready to go and all over the state and putting people to work, back to work. And I don't think job creation it's not partisan. It shouldn't be. It's Minnesota. It's a Minnesota policy. People say, well, the bonding bill is not going to be the total solution. Well, nothing's going to be by itself the whole solution. It's part of the solution. So, tax incentives targeted toward job creation, or whatever kind of incentives, education, both closing the achievement gap, so we have and greater labor force participation rate for the future, and improving the quality of the higher education, and particularly working with the business community to identify what areas of higher education can provide the best linkages for the jobs, the people that they need for the future.
We need a People's Stadium, not a Vikings Stadium, not somebody else's stadium, the people of Minnesota Stadium, the way the Metrodome was. One that was built with public bonds that were paid off by the revenues generated by that operation. One that's provided for the last 30 years a home for professional sports, a home for amateur sports, a home for high school and junior high school sports, a place for people to go rollerblading, for concerts and events all over that people can come. A project that has produced economic benefits to the people of Minnesota that far exceeded any public costs. We can do that again with the right kind of financing, with several thousand people who go to work over 3 years building that stadium, with the proceeds from surcharges on tickets and souvenirs and food and beverages paying off those bonds that are issued. Not a dollar of general fund, not a dollar that wouldn't be generated except for the economic activity created by that project. But once again, we got an opportunity to put thousands of people to work. And that's our task here in Minnesota, is to put people to work. And I want a People Stadium, a project that's a good deal for the people of Minnesota, a project that's going to employ Minnesotans. Let's put people back to work all over the state of Minnesota. And let's do it now.
You were just watching a portion of Governor Dayton's meeting yesterday with construction workers. Up next is the Senate floor session, where they will take up the Omnibus Health and Human Services bill and the state government finance bill. Let's go live now to the Senate chamber, where they should begin shortly.